Hey guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Sydney Thompson.
I'm Monica Height.
And I'm Chelsea Duff. And Werewolf versus Vampire Seasonal Depression event continues this week. Are you guys so excited?
Oh, baby.
Listen, I got to see Josh Hartnett. I was thrilled. I was enthralled, one would say.
Yeah. Well, because that's the thing. We did 30 Days of Night this week. Did you guys know? Did you guys know that when you clicked on this episode?
Did you do your
30 Days
homework?
of Night?
Did you know what that is?
And we introduced it end of last episode. We kind of thought it would be like a good pair to American Werewolf in London because they're both like everybody wears winter coats in them both. So it's like they're basically
winter time.
I do think this is an excellent pick for January, as it turns out.
Yeah.
But yeah, all I knew about it was that there are 30 Days of Night. Did you guys know that about this movie? And that Josh Hartnett and that Josh Hartnett is in it. And I was delighted by that information because Monica and I saw Trap in theaters when Trap came out, and we're shoehorning that in a little bit whenever we can.
Trap aficionados.
Yeah, we're big Trap fans over here.
I also
big Trappers.
Less fan, but still big names.
Big fan of Josh Hartnett now.
Big Josh Hartnett fan. Big Josh Hartnett love. And may I just say, I feel like he's at his Josh Hartnett-iest in this movie.
No, he's at his Josh Hartnett-iest in Pearl Harbor, where everybody fell in love with him.
Maybe I haven't seen that one. Yeah, I was going to say, but I don't know that I want to
This is my Josh Hartnett-iest movie.
Yeah.
No, here's the thing. It's a love story.
Okay, I am interested.
Like
it's like love
war and love together.
Like
it's kind of similar to this.
It's like honestly a little bit because there's a throuple in this, and there could be a throuple in Pearl Harbor. Kate Beckinsale
There's
also
space. We're holding space.
We're holding
Ben Affleck.
Whoa. Okay,
yeah.
Sold. Cancel the episode. Let's go watch Pearl Harbor.
10-year-old me watched this, and I was just like.
You know what is the thing is I did just say one moment ago that I thought this was a good pick for January, but also now that I've said that out loud, I'm kind of like this movie and An American Werewolf in London both could have been good February movies because they're both such lover girl movies.
I really would not want to cover this film for February.
But in theory, it would fit some previous Feb theme.
In American Werewolf in London, for sure. This one, I think, would have been the perfect movie to do a whole year ago in November of 2023 when we did Novembleak. This is the most Novembleak movie since The Mist. And I would like to start my argument now that this is The Mist with vampires. That is what this movie is. It has the depressing energy, the no hope. There's no hope. And everyone's gonna die. It's that kind of vibe. It is that kind of vibe.
Yeah. And I'll give you guys the log line just in case you decide to come in blind. You don't know what the days of night for 30 days are being used for in this movie. Maybe you've gleaned a little. We did say they were vampires, and also you know the name of our seasonal depression event.
Actually, this is a werewolf movie.
Actually, we mixed it up, bitches. Gotcha. Anyway, here's the logline per IMDb. After an Alaskan town is plunged into darkness for a month, it is attacked by a bloodthirsty gang of vampires. So yeah, I feel like that's about what I knew going in.
100%. And I like that it keeps it just to that, because you wouldn't want to go
Say
in
no more.
any further and be like, and everyone's gonna die, and it's gonna be really
Yeah.
horrific, and there's
Well,
gonna
'cause
be
that's the
honestly okay
thing.
character development throughout.
Okay, here was a surprise that I loved. I loved to come into this movie and then realize it was a movie about a divorced couple. I was like, that's so
They're just
juicy.
separated,
That's
actually.
so gossip.
And that is not in the book, by the way. Okay, start off by
Ooh.
saying this beautiful, beautiful film, wow, is based off of a graphic novel written by Steve Niles, who's one of the writers of this. And apparently he came to up with this idea, and he brought it to filmmakers and said, we should make this into a movie. And they said no. And so
They
he
said,
turned
go
it
fuck
into a
yourself.
graphic
Yeah.
novel. And so he turned it into a graphic novel. And then the graphic novel got turned into a movie. So he got there in the
And he
end,
said,
and I'm happy for
guess
him.
what, bitches? Yeah.
Guess what? But I read the graphic novel, because that's the thing about graphic novels, is 100 pages, and I read it in 35 minutes, so pretty exciting. Graphic novel confused me at the very beginning, because I had just watched the movie, and I thought the movie was going to be more like the graphic novel, but they added a whole bunch of other characters, which makes sense. And so
I
at the very
heard-
beginning, I thought the graphic novel started with a gay kiss, and because it showed two men looking at burnt radios on the ground, and I was like,
This
it's
That's
Billy
gay.
and it's Eben. And then they said, give me a kiss. And then they kissed. And I was like, oh my God, what's happening? Why did they take this out for the film? Well, I'll tell you what's happening. That was just the woman. That is just the wife. What's her name? Stella?
Stella.
That was just Stella wearing a hat, and you couldn't tell her gender really. And in the book, or in the graphic novel, Eben and Stella are both sheriffs together, and they're husband and wife sheriffs, and they're not separated, and they're deeply in love. And so that's a main difference right off the bat. But I liked the little drama that brought.
Yeah.
It gave it like a fun level of sexy tension.
A
Yeah.
little flair, a
little
little emotional
flair.
rumblings. I did see on IMDb trivia though that like Billy and his subplot, who is the male partner in the movie, he is in the second graphic novel. So that's where like that storyline comes from,
Days
allegedly.
of Darkness or something like that.
Yeah. I did see that they
Yeah.
made a second movie too.
Dark
Obviously
Days.
have not watched it yet, but
30 Days
I
of
was
Night,
interesting
Dark
to go
Days.
in knowing there was a sequel, because then it kind of made me, well, I didn't think about it
things.
until I got into the end of the movie, and then I went, oh yeah, there's a sequel, so I wonder what's gonna happen. But it's always curious to know that going in, because then you're like, does one
2010.
person live to tell the tale or whatever? Like, well, you don't know. We don't know.
No,
But
no one knows.
no one can say.
No one can say.
Obviously, we know because there's a sequel.
But it
And
could be
Stella's
like, did
in
one of the
it.
vampires
Like,
live? Did one?
the
I didn't
yeah.
look at the
It could be the
cast.
vampires.
Stella's
It
in
could
it.
be that we're now in Wainwright, and it's a whole different crew, and it's like they're part of a larger conglomerate, and blah blah blah. You know, you never know with these things.
Anything could happen.
Anything.
There's a
could
multitude of
happen.
possibilities. Isn't that beautiful?
Mhm.
But one of the things I really liked about this in general is the fucking premise at all, because I just watched Night Country last year. What is it? Something Night Country? Fuck, what's it called?
Night
Yes,
Swim.
No.
No.
Um,
Kelsey, shut up. It's not about Night Swim.
it's like True Detective. It's like
True
the
Detective and
yeah.
Night Country. That's what it is.
Oh.
Thank you, babe. Thank you. Yeah,
Is
it's
that in
one,
Alaska?
and it
Mhm.
yes, and it is in a
Oh.
town where this same thing happens, where there's 30 days
Vampires?
of night. I don't know if it's exactly 30 days. The exact same thing. It's actually
It's-
does have a
it's
lot
so
of like
weird. Jodie Foster plays Stella.
Yeah.
there is a lot of paranormal business in that as
Yeah,
well, but
I
not
think I've heard
vampires.
that.
It's really, really good. You should watch that. But
Okay.
I really liked the tone of that show, and I just love the like insanity of the fact that there are places in the world where it is just
Yeah.
dark for a whole month or less or longer. Either way, longer than a night. That's fucking terrifying just as a concept. So I love diving into that. I also used to love this podcast called Nocturnes. You should listen to them if I don't know if they're still going, but it was great. And they only do episodes on things about the night. And so they did a whole episode about a place where it's dark for that long, and it was really, really interesting. But I really liked how that played into it, and it is such a brilliant, it just makes sense for this to be a great place to host a vampire story, and I never would have thought of that, but it's really smart.
The premise goes crazy hard.
Goes so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently in the real life Barrow, Alaska, which they've changed the name to something. I didn't write it down and I don't know how to pronounce it, but I assumed it was like an indigenous word that like people who were indigenous to the area previously had been using before white Americans came in and renamed everything. But apparently it's actually dark there for 67 days when it goes dark there.
Oh my God.
So 30 days, they were being conservative for movie estimates just to keep time moving, but 67 days is a lot.
I have the new name. It's Utqiagvik. That's how you say it. I looked it up.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Pronunciation.
Utqiagvik. Yeah. It's interesting that the town is now a native name. There's criticisms. My first time speaking this year.
Sure.
There are criticisms of this movie because they felt that it whitewashed the graphic novel. Because in the graphic novel, the Eben is Inuk. Is that how you say it?
I think so, but
yes. So he's a native, and so they, cast Josh Hartnett, and to my knowledge,
classic
that man is
Alaskan
native
native.
long. But yeah, it's longer there. I read something that said that it's a month and it starts on November 18th and ends on December 17th. Oh, that was in the graphic novel. That's where I read that. And so it was a novelist. It was fake, and it was in the graphic novel.
Could be real. I mean, who knows?
I just think it adds to my plea for this to be a Novembleak movie because it literally takes place in November, and it
Let's
ends
time travel
on
really quick.
And it ends on
this
Adam's
is actually November,
birthday.
and we're still in 2024.
We did need to
do. It was 2023 that we did that.
Oh yeah,
because 2024 just happened.
Yeah.
Oopsie. I know it's hard to say. No one knows.
It's okay. I'm still.
It is.
I'm still in F slur November, guys. So.
Oh man, that was 3 years ago.
That's where she feels safe and comfortable. So
I hate it here, so I will go to Secret Gardens in my mind. F slur November.
Look,
seriously, you got to do it. The election happened. I watched 4 Harry Potter movies in one day. That was the Secret Garden in my mind, and in that place, J.K. Rowling doesn't exist.
Harry Potter actually wrote itself. Actually,
it's crazy
Me
that
and
it's
my
an
Marauders
ancient
era
text.
friends wrote Harry Potter. Yeah.
No, yeah. Taylor Swift wrote.
Yes.
There's that whole thing where she
Miss
wrote all the
Bean.
dudes. We're not getting into it. I brought it up, and I'm putting
I'm sorry I brought it up.
Taylor Swift, the most prolific Marauders writer ever to exist.
Shut up. Okay, we're getting back on track forcibly. Now we're going to talk about another special interest TV show I watched this year that has to do with this. Detail in the beginning that I thought was really interesting was the fucking familiar guy. What is his name? Do we get his name? The Stranger, played by Ben Foster. He did a good job of being full pussy into being a deranged, freaky motherfucker who's very ominous. So I appreciate that from him. But I love
giving Renfield a little bit. Know what I mean?
100%.
Oh yeah, and somebody on IMDb trivia was making that point as well.
Oh my god!
Totally.
Look at me, I'm so smart.
Look at you! You're so media literate. I find that really fascinating.
It's so important.
Media
to have
literacy
a
is not
kooky
dead.
little familiar. It's so important.
I want a kooky little familiar.
Well, what did you guys think about the beginning when we have the stranger walking into town and he's coming from the sea where there's that like big tanker ship or whatever heading over? Because for me, that brought up a bunch of stuff right away. first thing it made me think of The Terror, which is an incredible TV show that is like a dramatization of a real event where two ships were trying to find the Northwest Passage, and they got iced in, and then all their food was spoiled because it was improperly canned, so they all got botulism and died. Very exciting. So it reminded me of that show, which turned it into like a paranormal thing, which was really, really interesting as well. Because the boat kind of looked like it was stuck there. But do you think maybe the vampires like just did some fucking Bram Stoker's Dracula
Yeah, I was gonna
Nosferatu
say
style ship slayage right there?
it could give a little Last Voyage of the Demeter stuff. Not that I saw that movie, but I
Totally.
know that that's
Mhm.
that chapter
I
of
have seen
Dracula.
it. I have seen it. It gives that like 5 seconds of the most recent Nosferatu film, where they show the boat.
Mm-hmm.
And Last Voyage of the Demeter was really good. Andre Oval, or whatever you say his last name, who did uh the one that we went viral for, Jane Doe,
Twilight.
Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Jane Doe.
Autopsy of Jane Doe. There's a Twilight reference in this too. Oh
Yeah,
my
it's a
god.
vampire movie, girl.
No, bitch. Beyond that, it's crazy. It's crazy. You're gonna go crazy. And I'm fact checking right now because I read it somewhere else. Yeah,
Okay.
the director of this movie went on to direct the Twilight Saga Eclipse. David Slade. No joke. He directed 30 Days of Night, and 3 years later, 3 days later, 3 years later, he directed Eclipse.
Wow, is
There you
this a
go.
sign that we should do Eclipse in February?
No, no. I can't handle the wigs. We've talked about this. In our very serious business that we were discussing, we talked about my feelings about the wigs. I
Yeah,
can't
but
go
I
back
think
there.
this is a sign, Monica.
I can't go back there.
I do
Weird
think
reference.
this
Crazy?
movie is giving such Eclipse and also Breaking Down Part 2 vibes, though, because, like, The Stranger is really giving, like, Victoria's army and also, like, Jasper's Confederate friend Peter or whatever. Like, the Twilight vibes are
Yes.
vibing.
Yes.
They're
I
doing
feel-
Vampire Battle in the Snow.
They are doing Vampire Battle in the Snow. And oh my god, wait. The decapitations go crazy.
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
girl.
Honestly, this might be really morbid of me, but like everybody, what do you expect from me?
Get into it, girl.
Blood in Snow is so beautiful.
It is.
Yeah.
Like I
yes,
was
that's true.
watching like the scenes, just all the blood. I'm like, wow, that's like really pretty and a little romantic, actually.
It is
But I
romantic.
was also like, they sure are spilling a lot of blood for bitches who like to drink it, you messy little fucks.
I was thinking that
They're just
too,
like little
because
babies, you know? Have you ever seen
just
an
like-
adorable baby?
That's what they do when they get in there. It's crazy.
they go nuts. Yeah, I was thinking about that
They're
too, because
frenzy.
there's 152 people left in the city. I know that because they changed the sign.
Yeah, and they made
to
such a big point of
152.
it.
They made a huge deal about it. There's 152 people left in the city, and that's supposed to feed. How many vampires do you think that is? I guess they're all named. Apparently, I saw in the
In the
credits,
credits, but not in the film itself.
yeah, not in the film itself. So I probably could go in and count how many, but I'm not going to. Let's say there's at least
Yeah.
20. There's at least 20.
I can't say 20 to 30.
20 to 30 folks in this vampire coven crew thing, and they eat like I don't know, like a lot of the people on the first day.
They eat a lot of people, which
Like
like
a lot of
seems
them.
wasteful. Why
That
would you-
said, it's not like they can't keep the bodies on ice, you know what I mean? Like they're
That's so
well preserved
true.
in the environment. They just go outside and they have a little snow cone later.
Here's
Yeah.
my thing.
That's why
If
they're
you're gonna
splashing it all around.
If you're gonna be a vampire, why would you fully drain one? Why wouldn't you just like drink a
A
little
little sippy.
and then make them forget everything and then come back later?
Well, see, this is a reason why I liked this movie. And let me be so clear that I had a horrible time watching this movie, but I think I liked it still. Had a really horrible time watching it. It was like stabbing myself in the face to get me to watch this. I don't know why. I was really having a rough time with
Sometimes
it.
vibes.
in the aftermath, I'm thinking about the parts of it and I like it. So you can do it. You can do that. You can just
Yeah.
decide. You can just decide.
You can decide.
You can, here's the thing about movies is you can have such a bad time watching them because it makes you feel bad, and that's the intention of the movie, so that when you're thinking about it later, you're like, well, they did a really good job and I am affected in the way that they wanted me to be.
Well, it wasn't even that. While I was watching it, I was thinking this is bad. The whole time I was thinking this is really bad. And then I was like, but is it, Monica? And I've decided it's not that bad. And so here's why. The reason I brought this up in the first place is because the saving grace for me that made me change my whole mind is that I really love what they did with the vampires for this. And I love how different it is than the average vampire. And I think it's great that we're doing such a different view of vampires during Werewolf versus Vampire Seasonal Depression event.
Mix it up
by
a
the
little,
way.
yeah.
Yeah. It's so easy to do the like sexy, sexual, blah 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 stuff. Everybody has the hot, sexy vampire these days and in days past. But I really liked how grotesque these ones were. But
It's
more
almost
to your
given zombie
point,
movie in some ways.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But to what you were saying earlier, Sydney, about like leaving them on ice, it's so interesting because there's so many different rules for vampires. So, like, for example, was it Interview with the Vampire? Or I don't know which one. There's one where, like, if you drink the blood of the person past
Oh,
the time
that's
of
Interview with the
their
Vampire.
death, then you die. So, like, you can
have to
suck
drink
their
life
blood.
from the living,
Yeah.
not
You
death
can
from
suck
the
their
dead.
blood until their heart stops, but if you go past that, you'll die too.
That was
so
Interview with
funny.
a Vampire. Like, you can't drink
Interview
a
with a
dead.
Vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's interesting. There's just so many different ways to do it. This one, like, they don't pass as they barely pass as humans. They're humanoid, but they're so different. And I loved the like ancient language that they had, which was I just found out about this term, a conlang. Is that how you say it? Which is like a fake language created for the film. And they like hired like linguistic professors from the University of Auckland to create the language for this film, which I thought it was so interesting and like clicky,
cool.
and it was so cool.
I will say these vampires were giving monster.
Yeah.
Totally.
And also
the full teeth. Oof.
Yeah, they kind of reminded me of the raptors from Jurassic Park a little bit.
Well,
like
I
the
see
way
that.
that they hunted, the way that they like would leave bait out for people to then attack, like they played with their food.
No, totally. I feel that. And then I think also like the clicking sounds they were making
is giving dinosaur.
Is reminiscent of that.
A little bit.
Okay, also, just want to let the listeners know that we are recording this on the day of the Great Wind event of Los Angeles 2025. And if I start looking authentically terrified, it's because it feels like my house is blowing over right now. So that's what that was. I just got really scared. And also, it fits really well with this very winter snow movie because it feels
the
like
atmosphere is
here's the thing.
Fucking on.
The atmosphere is atmosphering.
We got a little bit of snow in Alabama yesterday. All the bread is gone.
Just flickered.
Oh no.
I'm so scared. Anyway, it's fine.
Yeah, if Monica leaves halfway through the episode,
that's why I blew
Monica's
away.
gonna trudge across the snow to my house, and she's gonna stay at the utilidor in the meantime. And it's gonna take her 19 days. She's gonna hunker down in there. That is one thing
she's
that
gonna recreate the movie, actually.
Yeah. And she's gonna film it all for social content. I'm so certain.
Yeah, when I'm fighting for my fucking life.
That would actually be really funny, and I would pay for that.
$3
on Patreon.
I think $3. But by the way, you guys, if you are not a patron but you are so curious about what's going on over there, you can now buy any of our posts on Patreon individually for the low price of $3, and it would be lower if Patreon would let us. We would love to give you such a bargain, but sadly,
no, that's the
minimum.
lowest price they will allow. So.
We were willing to sell ourselves for cheaper, but Patreon said, "No, girls, know your worth."
We were like $1.
Know your worth, girls, and we were like $2. But if you
it's
like,
$1 for each of us, actually.
Oh wow! But
if you really want to see the companion
like
trailer reaction, for example, but you are like, fuck these bitches the rest of the time, then you can go and just check that out. That's now an option for you, just so you guys know.
You can get in there.
But one thing that I did think this movie did not do well was the passage of time. Like I did notice at some points they'd be like day 18, day 27 or whatever. And it's like, you're telling me they were in there for 9 days since I last, what? I don't believe you.
They did not establish that well. And like,
and at one point I looked up and it was like day 18. And I was like, what have they've been
and then all of a sudden they were like, tomorrow the sun rises. And I was like, no, it doesn't. The movie has been going for 1 hour. 1 hour and 45 minutes.
I don't think it does rise tomorrow.
It was also totally too agree. Like I never saw any of the like days later, and I was like, how long or like where are we in the month?
I think that they should have established. It would have been like a cool ominous thing too if they had established that from day one, like on the day that it all began. They're like day 1, and you're like, what? And then
if they had made the day like bigger and the focal point of the screen rather than tucked away in the corner, I think that would have helped. But they also just didn't do anything to like, oh, they're in Charlie Kelso's attic for 10 days or whatever. And it's like, well, they all look exactly the same as they did 1 day ago. And I understand that they're not doing much up there, but like their hair's got to be getting greasy or something. Like, give me something.
Right? They all can't have a blowout.
Yeah, none of them are showering or anything. And like, their facial hair should be growing. We see Billy at the end, and he looks like he's been
his
through
hair's got a little bit longer.
No, I think that was a failure on the like makeup and costume designing too, which is not their fault necessarily. They probably weren't given that.
They put all of the work into the vampires, and then they went, "Oh, 5 o'clock shadow for Josh Hartnett. Why didn't we think of that?
Fuck,
he would be so sexy with a 5 o'clock shadow.
He could have had a beard by the end."
Before we get too far away from it, though, I had a couple other things I wanted to say about the monster design. Just because I was really, really fascinated by it, and I was trying to figure out more about why it looked the way that it looked. So, because like they're obviously giving like shark, right, with the teeth, and also I don't want to say
maybe
too much
swam
about
over
this.
Underneath the boat.
Something to consider.
Something to consider. They hung onto that anchor.
But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, this also, and I'm gonna say the barest thing because I want to cover this movie on this podcast. And Chelsea, I know you've seen it. I don't know if you've seen it. The way they did these monsters reminded me of Cuckoo. I will leave it at that. This reminded me so much of Cuckoo. I was going something crazy. Well. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say because for Sydney's sake.
Okay. Now I'm
but
interested.
It was really reminding me of that, which I loved because I loved that movie.
Didn't you read the whole Wikipedia page for Cuckoo?
I still have no idea what it's about.
Don't spoil it for her. But anyway,
she spoiled it for us, if you'll recall.
I don't recall.
Okay, well then I won't say.
But I'll
say when we do Cuckoo. But
yeah, because I also could not tell you what Cuckoo is about.
I won't tell you. Oh, you did. I remember how you spoiled it.
How?
I want to watch that again now that I'm a birder. Anyway.
Oh, with like just knowing what a cuckoo bird is?
Don't talk about it anymore. You're going to say too much. You've already said too much, Chelsea.
Anyway. You gotta cut that out.
Okay, we're moving on. But they look so much like sharks, and I feel like this was a good thing and a bad thing at the same time, I think. How did you guys feel about the thing they did with the eyes? And I don't mean the blacked out like sclera contacts. I loved that. That's fine. I love whenever they do that.
The little
how they were like they're upturned, but like their heads seem to be like a different shape too.
Yeah. But not the main guy.
but not the main guy.
Yeah.
And I think that's
He's
because
the leader.
Danny Huston is a actor that is slightly like is well known, and so I think that they wanted him to look
Let's
like
maintain
himself.
his star power within this film.
I think that was. I honestly think that that was a big part of it. But I was trying to figure out what that was, and if it was based on some lore or some sort of like vampire like thing, because like, you know, the olden days way that vampires were described, they were not sexy young gentlemen making you cream your jeans, you know, they were like nasty and disgusting. But I couldn't find anything about that. And I think what it actually just ended up being is they wanted it to look like the art style from the graphic novel, because the graphic novel just has such an interesting style to it. And I have it here on my phone. I'm trying to pull it up, but my phone just died and I just hooked it up, and that's why I've been ad-libbing so much. So it's coming back.
She's stalling for time, folks.
I'm stalling. But it was so interesting, because the reason I think it's good and it's bad is because, you know, they didn't do that with practical effects. They didn't. I think maybe some of those people just had interesting faces, some of the people who played the vampires. But
yeah, one of the ones when I was looking at her, I was like, I think that's just her face. And then I saw it on more of them, and then I was like, maybe not. Okay, not sure.
One of the guys could have been Dave Bautista. I'm just
that was
saying.
Dave Bautista in my mind. In my mind, that's Dave Bautista.
That was Dave
Bautista. That's the Dave Bautista in my mind. I was thinking that the whole time. And he's like the main. I was like, oh, he's like the main Dave one Bautista? In the poster, right? Oh no, maybe not. What? There's an alt poster of him.
And then there is like kind of secondary
main second made
vampire
one, the bald
guy.
one.
Yeah, because they filmed allegedly per IMDb trivia, and also if I'm remembering this correctly, they filmed the, what do they call it? Because I only remember it after the fact, and I put Muffin Muncher in my notes, but I was like, I don't think that's exactly right. But they called that crusher machine something like that.
Man or something like that.
In real life, it's called a muffin something, because I opened this
Muncher?
And I wanted to read it so bad and it wouldn't let me. It's from wateronline.com and it's called The True Story of Monsters in Barrow, Alaska. And it's like a case study, and I had to sign up to read it. And it was like, there are real monsters there, blah, 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 blah. And the monsters aren't vampires, they're muffin monsters.
Muffin monster.
Registered with the registered thing. So that's what that thing is called.
We do like Muffin Muncher, but monster.
They're used to shred, grind, and crush trash that finds its way into the Barrow's underground sewage system. In case you want to know.
But yeah, they filmed that scene from the end first, and then the director, I think, liked him and what he did with it so much that whenever they had a space in the script that was just like a vampire attacks or whatever, he was like, let's use that guy. And then it ended up making the Muffin Monster scene so much more elevated, because now that's like a familiar monster figure that we're like invested in his demise, rather than he's just like one of the monsters. So
no, it's good that they had the focus on multiple people.
And then they had Drusilla as well.
Oh yeah, so here's the image that made me like really believe like they just were pulling from the graphic novel. Sorry, can you hear me? For this, because like that woman there looks exactly like the woman that they chose to play the female vampire.
Her name was Iris.
The glare. Oh yeah, Iris. And I thought it was also very interesting too, because I kind of feel like Iris and let's see if I can look it up really fast. Marlo like were parallel to Eben and Stella. Which I thought maybe would get more profound later on, because I don't know if this is the case too, because in the graphic novels kind of alluded to this, but there's that little child vampire too. And so I don't know if they were like a family unit sort of thing. It was clear that Marlo and Iris were a couple. But then like there was that momentary parallel with Eben and Stella, and they had that fight about, I think part of the reason they broke up is because Eben didn't want to have kids and Stella did. And then like Stella saves that child. And so they're like these.
Which wouldn't make sense.
So
because
it felt
Gail
like
just
parallels
comes
there.
out of nowhere.
Yeah, she really does. And I really thought there was going to be more with that. But then I didn't think Eben would do what he did. And we'll get to that later. I'm fucking mad. But I do love the Muffin Monster. And I love that it's called that. But I love a movie where it's just like, hey, look at this thing that's gonna be part of the big climax later on. I
Are you
love that. I think
excited?
it's
Yeah.
so funny when
I
like
love a good
the
foreshadow
pilot
moment.
was like, "I'm so mad," throws thing in the thing, and it goes. I was excited. I was like, can't wait for that to come back. I said that out loud.
Though that's the thing though, is they did do it with that one, but then when Eben had arrested the stranger and put him in the jail cell and he attacked Jake and then they left and he was like, Helen, tase him if you gotta. And I really was like waiting to see the taser come into play, but it never did.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think maybe there was a deleted scene because like we never see Helen die.
That's true.
And I feel like they might have maybe she
We
tried to
hear
use
her
it
a
then.
little.
Yeah, my God. Like none of
Yeah,
those
that was like
characters
sad.
exist. There's no fucking
There's no
there's
Helen.
no son. I'm sorry, not son. Brother. There's no brother. That's not a thing. There's no divorce. That's not a thing. There's no Helen.
Divorce. I was
There's
even good when
no
I heard there was a
throuple.
divorce. I was so
Oh, I
excited
love
about
the
divorce.
throuple.
I do have the throuple as well, of course.
The throuple was amazing. I was so excited. But it's so exciting. They're just about to have their first night of, oh my God, they were just about to start 30-day fuck fest. And then
that would be
and
really fun, actually.
They were killed.
Let's get
That's
the parallel
terrible.
movie, alternate universe cut. The monsters don't come.
Right?
Oh my God. What?
An
How
AU
terrible that
where...
this was taken from us.
I know.
Oh
From
my
us. It's
God.
not fair.
It's not fair. We deserved that. We deserved that 30-day fuck fest film. What would it be called? 30 days of a fuck fest. There you
30-day fuck fest.
30-day fuck fest. I was trying to parallel the title. I don't know. We were close.
30 lays of night.
Oh!
Title maybe of the episode. Pretty good. Pretty fucking good.
Write that down. Write that down.
Fan fiction.
I'll do it. I'm on it. I'm on it. I'm on it.
Writer of the pod. But yeah, they did have all these additional characters, and that's what really makes this the Mist for vampires, because like there's so many characters that you get, attached to. Like they didn't have to make me love Bo Brower so much, but they did.
Right.
He didn't feel like he was a part of the community, and Eben.
They gotta give him a ticket every now and then,
and
so
remind
that
him
included.
Which
hey,
is
remember
like
this
a
guy?
bitchy way to do it, but okay. And then he, because of that hard work, he sacrifices
of that
himself.
Beautiful outreach of a citation.
He sacrifices himself and saves their life. And I gotta say, that shit fucked. That was like the sickest part of the movie. That, like, with that fucking chopper mobile. What could it be called?
I love the chopper mobile.
If it's the other thing is called a muffin monster, that could be called anything. That could be called something insane. But chopper mobile will work for now.
Yeah.
I still can't get over Muffin Monster.
I can't.
It's pretty good.
It's so sexual. It's unbelievable. That and the 30 Lays of Night, or whatever we're calling it.
The Muffin Munchers coming into play in the 30 Lays of Night. I'll tell you that for free.
I'll tell you that. Well, they all met working on the Muffin Muncher. Didn't they come from the
They might have met at the... I'm not sure. I was like, are they at the cell tower? Or they named so many locations that I don't have my bearings at all within this town.
I think another thing that is so haunting about this is how calculated this whole event was on the behalf of the vampires with the help of their familiar, the stranger.
Yes.
Burning every satellite phone. So no one can use a satellite phone because that's
killing
the
all
backup.
The sled dogs.
Killing all the sled dogs.
At first I thought they killed the dogs just because, like, I don't know, natural predator enemy kind of thing. The dogs are going to bark and be like something weird is going on. And then they said sled dogs later and I was like, oh no.
Yeah, no, that was so fucked up. Destroying the helicopter. And then when they killed Gus, they took down all the cell towers and the electricity. And the internet. So all communication was Dunzo. The one
They only
plot
had
hole that I
walkies.
saw was that, yeah, and that can't get outside of Barrow. It's just
And there are
communication.
80 miles of wilderness, blah, 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 from the beginning.
Yeah, the thing is, like, the plot hole that I saw was, like, how come no one from the outside, when they couldn't hear from anyone, like, sent anybody in? In the graphic novel, they're like, why didn't anyone come for us? And they're like, they probably picked them off as they came. I still think that's, like, a little bit of a hole in the story, but I'm willing to forgive it because this is fucked up. But it's interesting in the graphic novel compared to the book, and I like the movie. I prefer the way they did it in the movie. The graphic novel, there's like this aspect where Marlowe, I think it's Marlowe's character, an equivalent, was like planning this with like vampires from like all over town. So he was like emailing, literally, there are emails that are found. Because there's some subplot that does there's a subplot where there's somebody in NOLA who like finds out about the emails and like goes up to the not the North Pole, my God, to Barrow to like at least document that the vampires exist. I think that's what it was. I skimmed towards the end because the episode was starting. But yeah, he had like emailed all these people to get all the vampires together, and he's like, "This is gonna be fucking crazy. It's gonna be like 30 lays of night. We're gonna fuck every night, and we're gonna fuck all these bitches up." Why do I sound like Donald Trump right now? And it's insane. It's like this whole like he's like it's gonna go crazy, and then in the graphic novel, some other vampire who outranks Marlowe shows up, and he's like, "Wow, this is pretty crazy, man." And he's like, "Yeah, I told you it was gonna be sick." And he's like, "No, it's crazy bad. What the fuck?" And this
They
is where
Volturi him.
they Volturi him because he's like, this is where that line where they're like, how many years has it? How many centuries has it taken us to become mythology? So we
For
have to
us to
make
convince them that
sure
we're just a bad dream.
yeah, to confirm. Yes, I loved that. I loved that line. And he's like, so we have to make sure there are no survivors, and that is the impetus in both the novel and the movie for them to slay everybody and leave no one left to tell the tale. But in the graphic novel, it's like a cleanup job for Marlowe or whoever that might have been for his fuck up by like being too grandiose and too ostentatious. So I thought that was an interesting aspect, but I'm glad that they left it out because I think it would have made things way too complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the existence of their own special language does like raise questions about the larger vampire community and lore within this world. I don't know if any of that ever gets touched on in the sequel, obviously, but I am like curious about what the deal is. Like, are they particularly hungry? Are they just planning a party, kind of like the graphic novel?
Yeah.
Like, they're just being like, oh my God, you guys, I had this crazy idea. There's this whole area we wouldn't even have to hide at any point for the whole month. Like,
that's the impetus in the first one. They're like, we don't have to fear being killed ourselves because we never have to sleep and we never have to worry about hiding our bodies during the day. We just eat for 30 days, which sounds so good.
Right.
That sounds great to me too. Non-stop buffet.
Ugh. Honestly,
for 30
all
days.
You can eat.
All you can eat, baby. That sounds fantastic. But yeah, I mean, it really is a fucking depressing movie though, too, because everybody is just getting picked off one by one in the most graphic of ways. This movie really goes there with the gore a lot of the time, and I appreciate that.
Well, they're doing a great job also setting up all of these little, not soap operas, because it's not like that level of shock, but like these little emotional vignettes for people like John and Anna in their home thinking about all of the sled dogs that they've lost and being
oh
like,
my God.
can we just have dinner? And like Isaac and William or whatever, Wilson, his son, and like he's trying to get him not to leave the attic and like not to leave the bathroom, and then he has to go out after him, and there's all of these little I mean, obviously you've got Billy and Peggy and their daughter, but I don't like that one as much. But yeah, they do a really good job of creating all of these little moments. So even characters that you're only seeing for like a moment, you're like having this empathy for them immediately because it's like, yeah, that dog thing was fucked up, and I saw how fucked up that was, and now I'm sitting here in their living room with them, and like, yeah, that's fucked up.
No, seriously. It reminds me of like not exactly the same, but that one part in Titanic where they
Mm.
like show all these people as they're dying and it's like you're peering into this little world of these characters you haven't really
You're
seen
looking through the
before, but
portholes.
you care about them so much in that second. It's giving not quite that level of depression, but close. It's pretty bleak, you gotta say. Um,
It's
yeah,
almost
really,
Novembleak.
it's Novembleak.
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 Yeah, and I don't know, man. It reminds me so much of The Mist. It's so crazy, like with the like stuck in a small area together
Mm-hmm.
and you're fighting to figure out who's right and who should lead. There's not a ton of that, but there's some of that, with that one man whose
Doug.
wife left and told him not to eat Oreos. That other guy who
Carter.
becomes a vampire later. That's the one
Yeah.
I'm talking about right now. Yeah.
Yeah, that one's Carter.
That's
Doug is
Carter.
the one that's like, if we all go now, maybe some of us can get away. And Jake is like, oh, so you're cool with Denise dying or Lucy dying? That's fine with you as long as you've got a shot.
And most man would be like, yeah, actually, that's totally chill with me. So that tracks.
That was classic Doug.
It's time for me to say the Mean Girls thing because I forgot
Okay.
it earlier. I really think that this woman who plays Stella, Melissa George, looks exactly like Renee Rapp. And I could not stop thinking about it the whole time. She looks like Renee Rapp in like 10 years from now or something like that.
I was getting Anna de Armas vibes from her.
Her veneers and Billy's veneers are so distracting.
Billy's veneers,
His veneers were
Billy's
really,
veneers.
Like her veneers,
I was like, why are his teeth glowing like that?
His teeth are too white and her teeth are too big for her mouth. So like, she's like,
she's getting
the whole
lip
time.
It's like on her IMDb.
A little.
I see that. I totally see that.
She also looks like the actress from Girl Next Door too. What's her name?
I saw her name and I was like, I swear I've just seen her in something, but I couldn't figure out what it was. But I did see that she was in the Amityville Horror, presumably as Ryan Reynolds' wife. So, not that I've seen that, but just sharing.
The Amityville Horror with Ryan Reynolds?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that. I love that one.
You've seen her before?
I love that one. I watched it in a bar with no sound and people kept trying to talk to me because we were there to hang out together. I literally was like, don't talk to me right now. I'm watching my movies.
I'm busy.
I'm reading this movie. I don't even know if there were subtitles. I was just gleaning things. I've seen it before besides that too, but that was my favorite viewing. No sound, just vibes.
Yeah.
Also, I did think that the kid, Jake, the kid brother, was like absolutely adorable. So
I really
liked him. Also, there was one moment where he was so pale and so white, and I was like, he could play 17-year-old Edward Cullen.
Yeah, a little bit.
Wow. Being
they're
in
trying to make him look authentically 17.
Freezing cold for so long will do that to you. It really will. God. So sad. Everything is so sad.
Can we talk about the old man who just like goes rogue and kills him and his adult son?
That part was so sad. Because he was just confused.
Right.
Yeah, he's got some memory issues. He thinks
dementia,
his wife
probably.
is there still.
But also
that part
a cunning
was really sad.
little diva who was like,
I know,
I have
he's
to
like,
pee, and then just sneaks out the window. That's such teenager
These bitches are trying to hold me hostage in my home. I'm going to Wainwright.
Yeah, that part was so sad. And like the desperation of his son trying to find him and like screaming his name like that. Like, of course he's gonna get got, and he knows that, but he has to find his dad. I thought that was really sweet.
I do choose to believe that Isaac
made it,
got away, but also that is kind of a bleak ending as well, because it's like, is he out there in the 80 miles of wilderness? That's not great,
right? Like, where's it going?
That's kind of bad.
Kind of hope he got eaten. I think it's faster. Well, it could be really painful. I don't know. Would you rather die of exposure or get your throat ripped out by a like fucking shark tooth vampire? What would you choose?
Kristen
That's
as
the
bait.
Poll question,
right? Yeah. Back to poll questions. When they use Kristen as bait and it doesn't work, and then it's revealed that she was like complicit, and well, not complicit. She didn't have much of a choice, but she was not aware that they were using her, and what for. And she's like, I tried, but everybody is gone. And then they don't even kill her fast. They just like.
They play with her.
They play with their food. They love to slice them up. Ugh. I thought it was smart, like, for plot progression and, like, foreshadowing, too. But then, like, how they showed Eben learning how you progress being a vampire by showing that guy who was underneath the house. I think, was that the dog guy?
That was, the dog guy, yeah. John Rishi.
Wow, you even know his last name. Incredible.
Wow.
John.
They're like, over at John Rishi. Something bad has happened to John Rishi's dogs.
Yeah. I think
he can't
that
go pick up Stella because he's got to go see John Rishi.
Gotta go see John Rishi's dogs.
Ugh. And I love that it was decapitation. I just love decapitation.
Yes, we need more of it in this world.
I love it so much. And I think it's smart. It's a smart way to kill a vampire.
Desperately wants a guillotine. I believe we need more decapitations in this world.
We should be decapitating people more often.
We should.
Something that we should be thinking about. But no, I think that added a fun level of, like, I don't know, like a personal nature to the kills too, because it's not like this is an action horror movie, and I don't always love action horror movies because I love action movies, but like there's a difference between the type of gore of an action movie and a horror movie. And I think they toe that line really well because he has to use the axe for so many of the kills. So that kind of like brings it back to the
well, it also
crux of the genre.
The fight aspect of those scenes really leans more horror than action, where they would be like so extended and all this stuff, blah 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 blah. Like this one really, it not that it's realistic, obviously, but it like leans into the realism of like the messiness of a fight and the desperation, and like the fact that it always takes like minimum 3 whacks to take off anybody's head. Is like a good element to add in for a horror movie because it makes it so fucking horrifying.
Yeah, and then like when they have the young brother Jake have to decapitate the little girl, woof, baby.
That
loved when little baby girl vampire showed up. However, when she started talking, I was like, all right.
Okay, she's annoying. Okay. She can go.
Why is she talking like that in the perfect amount? I mean, it's giving like second generation daughter of immigrant parents. So, I mean, maybe she does just speak flawless English and everybody else is speaking in their vampire language. But I don't know what she says, but it's very
Marlo can speak English.
Yes, but it's not his default. You know what I mean?
True. Well, she was talking to. I think they like Sydney said, they like to play with their food, and so I think part of that they love to do a little psychological torture, which is important.
Yeah, what if she says, I'm done playing with this one though. You want to play with me now? And it was just like a little.
That's a direct quote from the graphic novel, so that's probably why. Yeah, it's directly from the graphic novel.
Have we considered that sometimes we don't want to take the exact dialogue from a comic book? Not that comic book and graphic novel.
I like that
graphic novel, Chelsea.
I just disagree with you. I'm sorry. Okay, I think it fucks. I think it fucks.
I loved the little girl. I just didn't love that one line.
I love that she was in a cute little flowery dress in the middle of Alaska in the winter.
I think that the people who created Abigail watched this movie and they're like, what if there was a movie just about her?
I did love the way she like flew right through the door.
Yeah. I loved her. She's a little sicko. And they have the similar teeth too in Abigail. So just saying.
I like when all the teeth are sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting how like just the transformation like makes all your teeth that way. I think it would be cool. This is sick. If your human teeth fell out and the new ones grew in like a werewolf kind of transformation.
They have to do an American Werewolf in London style transformation where the teeth just get like pushed out and
cool?
like ping,
that would be really dope, actually.
And it makes more sense because it doesn't fucking make sense. Like in The Substance when their teeth start falling out. That part made Adam almost throw up when the teeth started falling out. And that really freaks people out. Like me with needles, everyone else with teeth and nails, okay? And teeth, and then still
the nails get me every time. As a woman with 2 forever gone toenails, the toenails always get me, or the nails.
I loved their nails in this too. I thought that was another cool detail that they had like talons.
Right.
And then he like plays the record almost.
And it makes like a high-pitched shrill noise that all the other ones like no.
They honestly like my new thing in 2025 that you guys are gonna have to fucking deal with, and I almost said 2024 and I saved myself.
Wow,
you guys
thank God.
So brave and strong.
Chelsea has already had to deal with this a lot. And
is this birding?
Yeah, I'm a birder now. That's my thing. That's my new thing in 2025. So it's gonna come up a lot. I'm thinking about birds all the time. On Saturday, I made Chelsea look at every bird I saw the last week in my Merlin bird.
It's so fun. I love it.
She was like, "Wow, whoa,
wow!" Name on that one.
Look at that, and I was like, "Oh, she's doing such a good job of pretending to care." So I really appreciate that. I really appreciated it. It was very sweet.
Ultimate sport.
But honestly, though, like these vampires are so bird-like in so many ways. Like with the vocalizations, it reminds me of the crows when the crows and the ravens make that little like sound. I don't know if that kind of sound comes through on the microphone. So just imagine
one click. Yeah,
my tongue. Yeah. But yeah, that sort of sound, like the talons, the teeth obviously is different, but like similar to how you're saying it reminded you of the way like velociraptors hunt and stuff like that. We know about how birds and dinosaurs are the same.
They're the same.
It just all makes a lot of sense to me. And the bird-like features, they really had bird-like features. And I think I never actually said what I was trying to say when we were talking about this earlier, but they like use CGI on some of the people's faces to make their eyes that different shape. And at some points, it kind of like warped because it was 2007. And so I was like, I love that they did that. Like, what an interesting choice. It looked cool, but it didn't always stick on the faces as they moved around. So that was a little bit of a detractor, but I still think it was worth it. This a little Y2K charm.
Yeah. You know what I liked? Both as a fun detail and also as an aspect of the vampire movie that could have been way more, but also did slay as just a tiny touch. First of all, I loved that Grandma Helen is smoking the sticky icky and burning for herself. But I loved the UV light and how they were like, we can make, I swear to God that there was some movie, I was talking about it in my notes with myself, but I couldn't remember what movie I was thinking of. There is some sort of vampire movie, maybe it's Near Dawn, maybe it's Fright Night, where they're like, let's make dawn come early, and they use like the car headlights, you know?
It's Hocus Pocus.
It is Hocus Pocus.
It is Hocus Pocus.
It is. You're right. You're right. When you're right, you're right. Well, I was thinking about that. And Isaac Slay. But
a clear reference.
Right, when they were like, maybe we can make the sun come early. And I thought that they were just going to do something like that. And then they used the UV lights. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. I wonder if that's going to work. Because, like, I don't know enough about vampire lore to know what it is about the sun that they don't fuck with. But it could be the UV rays.
photosynthesis. I don't know.
Yeah.
Honestly, the safest place to be would be in a tanning bed.
Just stay in there, girl.
Wow.
Oh, but they cut the generators, so the power's out. You're fucked.
Yeah, no,
battery
never
power.
Mind. So I bring my battery powered and my stash of batteries everywhere I go.
I think it did a good job too of like establishing like what they look like as they burn, because it's like different again in every vampire iteration. Do they sparkle like a diamonds? Do they burst
like a diamond
into flames? Sometimes they blow up and turn to dust. Sometimes they crack and like whatever, like they're stone or whatever. So
this one looks
cool
like
to,
they like
establish.
burned.
Yeah,
they
they
turn
get
into
ash,
and then just like little pieces of ash, or they're not like a pile of ash, but it's like little pieces are like slowly blowing away in the wind.
Yeah, in the novel, it completely turns to ash.
It seems like that was what was happening at the end, but the pace of it was cool.
Yeah, because
she's like crushing.
Iris only gets a little bit of it. And honestly, I thought it was like a macabre kind of like gothic little detail of like how Marlowe ended Iris's life because she was suffering. I just like really liked since Nosferatu, my brain chemistry has changed. So I like these disgusting wrong things. But how he just like ripped out her throat to end her misery and like drank her blood, felt very like psychosexual.
She'll be with me always.
And her blood was black. If you notice that, like later on, right after that, Marlowe had like black blood running down his
they all
chin.
had the blood.
Yeah, I loved that makeup work, that they're all just gore covered. It's so different than the proper vampires that we see so often. So I really like this different characterization. I'll say it 5 more times. What else? Where are we? We've kind of jumped all around. Everybody's dying.
Have jumped all around. I'm
left
looking at
and
my
right
notes to see what are things that I feel are essential to mention. But this is just not at all really relevant to the overall story, but I did like in the beginning when Malachi hit Stella's car with his trailer. Just I fucking know. Well,
that was the fucking.
You know what I mean? That was the Muffin Monster trailer.
What did we call it? The Chopmobile.
The Chopmobile could be just about.
Close. It was something close to that. I'm sorry that we don't remember our own trademark names that we've created. We really got to get better at that. Money making opportunity missed.
Whirly
saw machine
trailer.
Big Toyota-thon.
Oh yeah.
That's it.
The Toyota-thon winter sales event.
Well, I liked when she got hit with the car and then she calls up even just to be like, hey, and he's like, I'll send Billy and I'm not coming until you're ready to talk about our divorce.
I was dying because I love Josh Hartnett, but like if you've seen Trap, you've seen how sometimes he makes really interesting choices as an actor that are frightening to your core. And I like just love how he like played up the melodrama in that moment. And so she like calls Eben on the phone. She's calling Eben on his cell phone, and he picks up the phone and he says, "It's me." What the fuck? I was like, who answers the phone like that? It was so that was so funny. No, he said it way more dramatic than that, with pain in his voice because they're separated. Okay,
it's me.
Oh, a little trivia that I thought was interesting. They did not film this whole movie at night, as you might imagine.
Oh yeah, isn't that crazy?
And they used day to night technology.
Whoa.
It says that like in every article, it's a day to night technology, and I was like, what does it mean? No one knows. It's an industry secret.
Wow.
I'm so not surprised whenever they do that in movies. That's always so par for the course. But what I always thought was interesting in terms of horror trivia is that they did opsy daisies of that in Nope, where they were filming day scenes at night, and then they like somehow made it look like day later on. Isn't that crazy?
Well, I did not remember that. That's
Unless
so
I made that
insane.
up, but I think that's true.
Well, you sounded so sure when you said it, so I'm
And
gonna
I still
believe
sound
you.
sure and authoritative, so.
Yeah, no, she's being
And
domineering again.
it's online now, so it's true.
Oh, okay, it's trivia time right now until we think of a new direction. The film is set in Alaska, but it was shot entirely in New Zealand. Hence the Auckland University professor who wrote the language that the vampires speak.
Yeah. And I allegedly they hired a lot of locals, and I looked at the IMDb page for one of them, and he'd been in one of the Hobbit movies, and I went, "Oh, that tracks." He'd been in 2 of the Hobbit movies, at least. I don't know. I think there's 3, so maybe he was in the 3rd as well, but it wasn't in his top 4 on IMDb at least.
Oh, this was the most meaningful trivia to me. What? Okay.
Bela Lugosi 2 weeks. We did an unintentional Bela Lugosi mention 2 weeks with our January picks for Werewolf vs. Vampire seasonal depression event. Because they mention it in An American Werewolf in London, and they mention it in this movie as well.
Oh,
Just
by the way,
because something stopped Bela
now.
Lugosi, why would it stop these things? That's the line.
I've seen the Wolfman, just by the way. Last episode, I said I wish I had seen the Wolfman before this. Well, I watched it right after. That's all I'll be saying. Next is Josh Hartnett, my guy. I knew I felt a kinship to him. He had mono for a few of the weeks while
yes, he did.
doing this. And I also famously had mono. So,
wow.
that's why he looked so sad and gaunt. That's what happens to you when you have mono. You look like a Victorian child with a wasting illness.
Oh, everybody loves good wasting illness.
Sure.
He really was feeling that agony. He was in the Novembleak mindset because he had mononucleosis, probably from making out with Stella. I'm kidding. I just made that up completely. I'm so sorry. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't want to start new
besmirch
rumors.
Melissa George.
I don't want to besmirch. Okay, they did kiss at the end of the movie. Who knows what scene, what order they did this
by then,
in.
certainly. He would never endanger his fellow actors.
Maybe
he probably should not have been said at all with mono, but I know you're besmirching her.
Well, I mean, he definitely shouldn't have been on set because we know the age-old tradition of all actors to spit in the mouth of your scene partner before starting a scene.
Yeah,
and so that would make it really hard for everyone to not get mononucleosis. So, anyway, and it's bad luck if you don't do that. So
it is bad luck.
Insider industry information for you right now.
Monica's in the biz now.
We're insiders.
So. Yeah, I'm in the biz, so I know. Yeah, so I know.
She works red carpet, and every time she walks a celebrity over, they go, "I just have to tell you something about the movie industry. It's really bad luck if you don't spit in your scene partner's mouth."
Chelsea, I also worked in costume design this last year as well.
And so you saw it for yourself.
Yeah, I saw it directly. But yeah,
you saw them go.
Demi Moore did look me in the eye on the red carpet and come over and say, I spit in, what's her scene partner's name?
Margaret Qualley.
Margaret Qualley's mouth. That's
hot.
That makes perfect
then
sense.
She
for
won
that
the
film.
Golden
Globe winner, Demi Moore.
That's why, because of the extra luck that she got.
I love to tell lies on the internet. It's so fun.
I love to lie.
You know what was another good vignette in this movie was when Carter turned and then he was like, "My wife and my daughters died, and a drunk driver took my wife and my daughters from me, and I knew one day I would meet them, but now I'm a vampire and I'm gonna live forever and I'm never gonna meet my daughters and my wife in the afterlife. You have to kill me, even I can't do it. You have to kill me." Like, that went crazy hard.
That's how I fully expect a man to behave around me. Like, if you want to be my partner, you have to be just like this. Like, I can't be a vampire. I'll never be with my wife. Yeah, slay.
That was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was on the side of melodrama. At this point in the film, I was like,
eating it
oh
up.
my fucking God. But It was beautiful and moving, and he did a
That's the
great
way they do it
job
in the movie,
performing
yeah.
it. Well, I kind of got turned off after the whole Billy shot his wife and 2 daughters in point blank in the
Peggy.
fucking head to protect them from what was coming.
But also too,
spoilers for The Mist if you haven't seen it. My
also,
God, did they do copy fucking paste?
but also too, like that does bring like a human element of horror into this movie. Like,
oh yeah. I mean,
where
it
it's
wasn't
like, what would you do if you're literally hearing these people screaming outside and you're
Well,
like trapped with your
if
I
family?
wouldn't shoot them in the
Billy,
head.
and
Yeah.
I guess I don't know what Billy did because he didn't fully walk us through the order of events. But did he discuss this with his wife at all, who is an adult and maybe could have been involved in this decision and whether this was the right thing to do, or did he just take matters into his own hands and murder his wife? Because if they were like, let's spare the children, do me, and then do yourself, and we're the adults and we have to decide for our kids what's best, and then we have to decide amongst ourselves. Or was he just like, I'm the man and I take care of the family, and then he shot everybody? Like, that's a very different vibe. You know what I mean?
This might be going too far into the ACAB thing, but he is a cop. And
He is a cop, so I mean,
And it would be
ACAB
very
always,
male
that,
family annihilator to be like, danger lurks, so I'll just be the danger first.
Yeah. Ugh, my God, that shit was so horrific. The way that Eben like jumped on him and was like, "You never hurt your family, you never hurt them," leads me to believe that it wasn't an economical, smart decision between 2 equal parental figures, you know.
No, I think
But it
Billy.
was also super
yeah.
clean.
Billy.
Here's the thing: the way that they're in bed and this I'm thinking about this too much. How clean the the bullet wounds were. I think he might have killed them in their sleep or something.
Yeah, he definitely did.
Yeah.
I'm sure he thought
Unless
he
he
was
staged
being
the bodies,
merciful and wanted to be merciful. I just don't know that I agree with his decision.
No. That was brutal. Brutal. Oh my God. It just kept getting worse from there.
Yeah, but then we literally said earlier in this episode that when Marlo put Iris out of her misery, it was a mercy, but she was already dying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she was already dying. This was totally different. They were just in danger, you know? So, I don't know.
And then he literally can't even like pull his own weight when they're getting Billy out of there. Like they're literally dragging him along. Although I was in my head, like, again, this is like day 27 at this point. So like,
yeah,
maybe he's been sitting in there for 20 days and hasn't, eaten anything. We don't know. We don't know his timeline or any of that stuff. So it makes it sound like he took action on day 1 when we heard all of the screaming. Yeah.
I mean, it was good though to have him back in the mix because of how he ends up dying later, because that shit was so epic. Like, our very noticeable bald vampire is the one that changes him and then gets muffin munched, or whatever we want to call it. Muffin monstered.
The muffin monster munches him up.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. And then Billy himself is being turned into the vampire, which looked very cool. But the amount of gore in Billy's kill was fucking crazy. That was like
pretty gnarly.
It was gnar. I hadn't seen something quite that gnar in a while, and I was like, radical.
Like, this is how I wanted to start the year off. You know?
I was a little like in a maniacal place at that point because it was like the 6th hour that it took me to watch this movie at that point because it's the last 15 minutes. So I was like, yes, chop his head off. Show me every second of it.
Well, it was also crazy because it was like, I feel like Eben picked the axe to give him like a better, cleaner death. But again, it takes at least 3 swings every time. And I was kind of like, maybe it would have been better if you just put him in the muncher. Maybe that would have been faster if you just put him in the muncher.
It would have been faster. But it would have hurt really bad for that like first second. But then he would be dead.
Now to go head first.
I thought he was going to put him in the muncher, but then there's no body to bury.
Not my friend.
And then he'd be munched up with the vampire.
Yeah.
You can't tell which pieces are the vamp, which pieces are him. It'd be a whole mess.
Yeah.
But
that said, they kept being like sunrises just around the corner. And like, I'm not a scientist. I don't know how it fucking works. But I would assume if you just had 30 days of night, you're not getting a full 12 hours of sunlight when the sun comes back. I was like, how much are you gonna get? Like 30 minutes? Like they're breaking into the pipeline and spilling oil everywhere. You're telling me they can't hide in that pipeline for 30 minutes or whatever it is? Like, you think this is gonna wipe them out? I wasn't swayed by that narrative. But I also I didn't look it up. I don't know how much sunlight they get. Maybe it's
because the way that the lunar calendar, like the way that the sun works
up there is different.
And like they're up in
but like, you know, it's like the moon cycle. It's like full moon and then less and less and less on one side, and then so it doesn't make sense that it would go back to fucking a full day right after. It should gradually come back, just like how daylight savings works. We just had
the winter solstice and the summer
and now the days are getting creeping along, getting longer and longer.
Right, so you'd think zero sunshine, you'd go little by little.
This is gonna zap them like a laser and kill them all. That's how it works, apparently. Maybe. I don't know. They gotta have hope for something, Chelsea. Let them have one little morsel of hope.
Yeah.
With all this bleak shit around them.
Like, there has to be a solution, you know?
Yeah.
Sure.
They have to have something to look forward to.
They sure didn't really necessarily find one, though.
I don't really agree with the solution that Eben chose.
No.
I was screaming.
I was like, you know what? Absolute slay. Go get the mama.
Okay, I was thinking it was the stupidest thing ever because I was like, okay, well, there goes you reconciling with Stella. But that's fine. He is saving her life because she is, as you know, stuck under a car with a child,
with a small child,
in the snow, as oil creeps towards them and is lit on fire. So the whole town's on fire.
They'll burn, and if they come out, they'll get them. Except he says it in reverse order, actually.
Yeah. So I was super mad at him because I had to look at a needle. So there's a lot of things I didn't like.
We had to watch him inject Billy's blood into himself.
Oh,
I was screaming at the top of my lungs.
If she runs, she'll burn if she stays. That was the line.
It's true. It's true. And I was like, this is so stupid. There has to be another way.
The way that we are.
I know. This is so melodramatic. Like, the writing is so melodramatic at the end. We can't.
And then he turns himself and he immediately turns to them and it's like, I can smell your blood. And I was like, play it cool, Evan.
Right? Act chill.
And it's like, that other guy had been under the house for like an untold amount of days and he was still kind of a dude. And like Evan immediately is, and then he's turning. Well,
he injected it. He didn't just get bit, so he mainlined that shit. He did a Bella transformation. Another Twilight reference.
Nice. But I have to say though, it doesn't. The math isn't mathing because Billy died so soon after he was turned. So like, how would his blood be at full saturation of the venom? Blah blah blah. I don't know. The science isn't all the way there. We'll have to take it to the University of Auckland.
That it must work.
Yeah, it went to his brain first.
But I loved it though. I loved it because my notes are literally like, that's so fucking slay.
You did look hot.
And then
so hot.
One that says, yes, mama, slay. And then Marlo goes, the one who fights. And then I was like, oh, it's an old school ass whooping now.
Right.
And then he punches straight through his head and it's just like,
that
now what?
He's got newborn strength. We've all seen Twilight.
I went crazy for that part. I was like, this is a stupid plot point, and I was like pissed. I was mad. And then he punched through Marlo's head and I was like, just kidding. It was actually really cool. I was like, actually,
you made it work. Yeah.
You're making some fine points right
Actually,
there.
I see the vision here.
I'm in.
I'm understanding it and I'm really liking it.
I'm subscribing to the vision now.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so that was epic. But like the ending of this movie, I was like, yes, 100%.
It's beautiful. It's gorgeous to look at. And it does touch the heart.
And I have starts back at the beginning, like it ends at the beginning where he was like, yeah, like I brought up here before. Like
everybody brought his wife Peggy there before. We've all spent a night here with Peggy.
It's also reminiscent of a much more prestige horror film that I literally cannot tell you the name of, because you might imagine that something like this would also happen at the end of another movie. So I literally can't tell you. But if you, the listener, have seen the movie that I'm talking about, then you know.
Are they going to know?
They're going to know. The ending is the same as another movie that's much fancier than this, that is about the same type of thing. And I will not say anything more than, no, you guys don't know. And that's why I'm not saying.
You know what I know.
I know that you haven't watched it. I don't know that, but I really don't think that you would.
It's The Wolfman by Bela Lugosi.
It's The Wolfman by Bela Lugosi. Did you know that? He is in the
quotation, The Wolfman. Bela Lugosi.
By Bela Lugosi. Yeah. But anyway, text me, DM me, and I'll tell you. But I won't spoil it because it's literally the end. It's literally the end of that other movie too. But this was well done too. I think that other movie does it way better. But this is so emotional because like Stella is just left there with nothing, and they're like fucking kiss when he's got the teeth and the blood on his face and everything. Like, oh my God. I love it.
I don't know. I would probably...
Nosferatu has changed me. I want everything to end horribly.
I'd be like, okay, but change me, and then we'll just hide in the shadows until night again, and then we'll make this work forever.
Is it Nosferatu?
It's not Nosferatu.
Oh, I was
but
like,
it kind of also is.
But it is like Nosferatu. But I was just referencing Nosferatu, but before I wasn't.
Yeah,
it's
but
older.
now,
not that old.
It's the other Nosferatu. And
it's the one from the 70s. It's literally not that.
If you say so.
It's not.
It is beautiful, and it is like I love when he says monster self, and he's like, should I go after them? And it's like, no.
Yeah, because some of them get
Sunset
away.
But Sunset is just around the corner, and then he's gonna burn. I don't know why he can't hide, other than they obviously don't want to keep a vampire around as a pet.
I would,
but they didn't even try. They didn't even think about it. What if
now that the power's back on, they have
easy out for the divorce.
Just something to think about. But they have their beautiful romantic kiss before he begins to crumble. So it is moving.
And he dies in her arms.
Yeah.
And she squishes him further into a more and more compact dust. And actually, if you watch the bonus scenes, she keeps squishing him until he becomes a diamond.
I was about to say, could I turn him into a diamond?
Yeah.
Like, and this is my
this is my husband. Yeah.
I would do that. I'm still thinking about turning BB into a diamond.
I want to be turned into a diamond when I die.
Become a family
I love a good
heirloom.
lab grown.
I'm also just going to be really honest right now and say the prestigious movie that I was comparing this ending to actually came out 2 years after this movie. So they might have got the idea from this.
Okay, now I'm looking up 2009 movies.
No.
Right? Prestigious.
You said to text you, and you'd say what it was, and we both texted you, and you're not saying.
No, because I'm doing other stuff right now, like recording the podcast.
But we want to know.
Is it Suck?
No, don't say it. I'll text you. God.
Does it suck?
It's not.
Is it Lesbian Vampire Killers? Because that came out.
No, I just told you. Shut up. I won't spoil it for everyone. I just told you it's really good.
Okay, I see your text. Okay, thanks for telling me. Thank you.
Also, I just want to point out that when I tried to say suck after you just did, I said fuck. So the vampire lisp is jumping out even when we don't have the teeth. Okay, that brings us to the end of 30 Lays of Nights. And so it's time to ask the age-old question: how could this movie be gayer? It could be gayer if what I thought was true in the graphic novel and Billy and him kissed over the burned satellite phones. I'm pissed about that.
Yeah, that should have been a thing. Billy and him should just be kissing all the time.
Yeah. And they don't even have to like make it weird or romantic or sexual. It can just be
No.
like, all right, good luck on your route.
Bye, homie.
Yeah. 100%. Little platonic peck like they do in When Harry Met Sally, but also it could be
I'll
gay.
kiss you at midnight.
Yeah, exactly. Also,
Yeah.
another thing that could be gay is there was a throuple, and there are two men in that throuple.
And the way that they talked about it was like, we're all going to share, and none of us have to be greedy. Which is to say, everybody is an equal. It's not a V-shaped polyamorous situation. It's a full triangle.
Exactly. Okay, so the vibes were already there. I was gonna say they could make it more clear that everybody was horny for each other.
They could have made it more
clear. It seemed a little like they were fighting over her, but it could be more.
I think they were until she was like, neither of you are getting me alone. And then they were like, we can work with this. I'll pivot. I'm open.
Together.
We kissed before actually, and we'll do it again.
And we kind of bisexual representation that I want in media.
Yes. Yeah. When the stranger is in his jail cell and Marlo comes to visit him and is like stroking his cheek, I did think that that was very gay and had potential to be even more gay if we had seen a little bit more of what the stranger was desiring. And
yeah, what were the stranger's motivations? Like, why did he want to be a vampire? Maybe because he was in love with Marlo.
Maybe I have to assume it was because he was in love with Marlo.
It has to be. I mean, Marlo's got that.
Why else is he eating raw hamburger other than to try and impress Marlo and show how ready he is?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's one thing we didn't talk about though, but I did love that like let down too. Just like so much sad, depressing, macabre shit going down when he was like, "Oh, you guys came back for me," shaking with anticipation, and then he's like, "We'll take care of you." Crack.
Yeah, well, apparently in the original script, the stranger is supposed to die when Grandma Helen gets got. And then while they were filming, they were like, "Oh, let's shoot these extra scenes just in case. We probably won't use them, but then at least we'll have them." I think it's so. I love when they come back and he's like, "They didn't come for me. They said they would, and they didn't come for me."
I like that.
And then I mean, I just love those bits. So I'm thrilled that that made it in.
In the graphic novel, Eben shoots him point blank in the head, only lightly provoked, gotta say, and it was in the jail cell. But also in the graphic novel, it's not clear that he doesn't have some sort of powers himself because he's strong enough to bend the bars.
I think he was for sure a vampire at first.
Yeah.
I only started to catch on to his like familiar nature kind of right before they really when they cut to some of the other vampires because he has like that weird accent that was almost kind of giving like old Volturi, old vampire kind of whatever. But they showed him at one point, and then like really not long later, they cut to a bunch of the vampires who were being very like wraith-like, and then I was like, well, he's not moving like that, so I think he might just be a familiar, as it turns out.
Like, I love it. More gay thoughts.
Jake is gay.
Oh
Jake
yeah,
is gay. That's gay.
That's a gay teenage boy.
That's a gay,
and I know that in my heart.
Yeah,
I know that.
That
I love him for it.
Couldn't be more true, actually. Yeah, so there was a gay character.
Yeah,
in the graphic novel, I thought that there was a lesbian character, but again, it's kind of hard to tell the gender of folks in the graphic novel because it's very stylistic drawing and it's like very like kind of amorphous. So there's a person who's like hiding out with them and they're like, "And my girlfriend's still out there." And to me, that looked like another woman. So the text itself is lesbian, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Yes, yeah. And I'm on board for that.
And they've brought it to the film, thank God.
Yeah.
Not enough, but a little bit with Jake. And Helen was definitely bisexual.
She definitely had a friend that is her roommate of 40 years.
Yes. 100%. They oh my God, I almost said they cook meth together. No, they grow weed together. I'm so sorry.
They might also cook meth. We don't know what they're getting up to in there.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know. Maybe if her friend survived, her friend might have gone into town or back to wherever for the 30 days.
Fair. Any other gay thoughts you'd like to share?
So many more gay thoughts.
And the eternal words of Homer Simpson, gay. 4 minutes ago, I went, what am I going to do? Do you like that one?
I tried to go down on the ground, but I'm kind of caught in my chair. I like that we all turned the same color red. What? Did you laugh too hard to even say the full quote?
No, I finished.
In the immortal words of Homer Simpson.
Gay thoughts. What does he say? I don't even remember what he says.
I don't know.
Donuts or something like that.
Oh. Well, that's going to happen every episode, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yep.
Anyway, Matthew Lillard, where would he fit into this film?
Do I have notes on that? No, I didn't have notes on that.
He could be the guy who is like, my wife told me not to eat all the Oreos.
Carter.
That guy.
Mm-hmm. No, that must have been Doug then. My wife told me not to eat all the Oreos. Was Doug dead by then? I don't know. Whatever.
He dies out on the streets. He's the one who says, let's just run and leave everyone else to die.
Yeah, okay. I think that is Doug both times.
I think he could have been the helicopter pilot that was like...
Ooh, throwing a temper tantrum?
They ruined my bird, man.
My bird, man!
That's my livelihood.
I just think that would have been so funny.
I think honestly though, because he's so lanky and tall, he would have been really good as one of these fucking freaky vampires.
Yeah.
Not necessarily Marlowe, because I did love Danny Huston or Houston, however the fuck you say his last name.
Is he related to Angelica Houston?
I don't know, but I've seen him in a bunch of stuff before, and I couldn't tell you a single one of those things.
Angelica.
But yeah, I thought that
half brother.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Spooky royalty.
They both kind of
right
have
there.
That like freaky hot look, so I like it.
Yeah, I see it. Oh yeah, with that. Yeah, he's got very expressive eyebrows. Good for him. He's in The Crow.
I saw
the one
that.
I didn't see. I want to see it now even more. Anyway, back to the task at hand. I think that maybe that one vampire who's not the bald one. I know they all have names. I'm not gonna look it up. I'm sorry. There's no time. The one who is the lankiest of all and has the black longer hair.
Oh,
he's like male and very bird-like. Looks honestly like he could be Iris's brother, just because they have very similar structure. That could have been Maddie Lily.
I really liked what Ben Foster, you said his name was, the guy who played the stranger. I thought he was very fabulous in his role, but I also do think Maddie Lily would be fabulous in a similar role.
Yeah, totally. I could totally.
He would take it to like a slightly different place. Like I'm imagining him being like, "They didn't come back for me." Like that would be such a different vibe for that scene.
Yeah,
I think the way I'm imagining it, at least. I don't know. I'm sure he can do it a zillion ways. But I think he would do something cool there. That's like creepy and weird and ominous and hopeful and sad, and he would do something cool there.
He would do something really cool. Okay, that brings us to our dumb bitch. Who could it be?
Could be Billy.
Yeah, I think it's Billy. That's what I was thinking about, and I felt bad saying it, but it's a dumb bitch behavior to massacre your whole family when you didn't necessarily need to. Unfortunately,
I mean, I don't know. Maybe he did save them from some misery potentially, but feels like it was very early on that he made that call.
Yeah, I agree. That part's so bleak. Oh my god. Oh.
Yeah.
God, this really hits the seasonal depression part
Yeah.
of the event. It's hitting the
Yeah.
vampire and the depression part hard. So, sorry. Yeah, I'm good with
Not the
that.
vampires, though. Vampires get an anti-dumb bitch nomination because,
No.
like we said, they are strategizing. They're out here being like, we're taking out the phones, we're taking out the power, we're taking out the lines of communication to the outside, we're taking out the helicopter, the airports are closed, we're taking out the sled dogs even. You can't even
They
hitch
thought
some
of
sled
literally
dogs up to a
everything.
sled and start mushing.
They thought of everything except for the Chomp-O-Matic machine. That is not what it was called. The Toyotathon.
Well,
And they
yeah,
didn't
Toyota.
think about the muffin monster either. Or the grow ups that might be happening within the town of Barrow, Alaska. So but that didn't really hurt him that bad, so not that big of a deal.
One more dumb bitch nomination goes to, well, I don't know who made this decision, so I don't know who to nominate, but per IMDb trivia, Ben Templesmith, the artist of the comic book, said that the working title for this film at one point was Crackers in Alaska, and whoever moved away from that is a dumb bitch.
What?
Crackers in Alaska.
Wow.
Is what they were calling it.
In
like
what?
white people in Alaska, I think. These dumb
I was
crackers.
like, what? They don't even eat
up
any
in
cookies.
Alaska. Because the indigenous people in the area are like, whatever, we know how to do 30 days of night, and also we believe stories different than the way white people believe stories like this. So
Yeah. No, it would have been different.
in their own things in their own communities.
That's why they're not fucking in those towns. They're going to the white ass towns. That was part of the strategy of the vampires.
We're gonna get these dumb crackers up here in Alaska.
That's fucking hilarious.
Can you believe that? What a ridiculous.
I never could have guessed that.
Such a slay title.
Just how I never could have guessed that you would say in the immortal words of Homer Simpson. Things gay thoughts. Oh, I love it. You could just say that part though. You could just be like gay thoughts, but I did like the in the immortal.
Well, how else were you gonna? I needed to contextualize it for you.
That's true. That's true. No, thank you. No, thank you so much. Okay, that brings us to our knives out of fives. Chelsea?
Well, I don't know about you. I thought this movie was mostly pretty well done and pretty interesting, but the numbers didn't necessarily support that. On IMDb trivia, this movie has a 6.6 out of 10, which is not terrible. I mean, it's not great, but it's not terrible. But on Rotten Tomatoes, this movie has 50% rotten from critics and 56% rotten from audiences. However, that being said, this movie was nominated for Best Horror Movie. Didn't win any of them, but it was nominated for Best Horror Movie at the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films, the Empire Awards UK, the Fright Meter Awards, the Scream Awards, the Golden Schmoes Awards, the Rondo Hutton Classic Horror Awards, and, of course, the Teen Choice Awards. So, Josh Hartnett was also nominated for Choice Movie Actor in a Horror Thriller at the Teen Choice Awards in 2008. So,
yeah, and even though, oh my god, my cat just somehow opened a closed door and I almost just had a heart attack. That scared me so bad. Anyway, also, like, even though the critics didn't love this, wasn't a critically acclaimed darling of a film. It did open at #1 at the box office the first weekend.
Did well enough to get a sequel, so.
Yeah, but the following week it was knocked down to #3 by Saw 4, in case you didn't know.
Valid.
So I thought that was interesting, just because it must have been marketed really well. But it's a really
the premise absolutely fucks.
Yeah,
so.
the premise fucks, so I can understand. And this was like the
heyday
heyday of Josh.
Drama, and I'm in. And
I love this about you. I love the Josh.
I just think it's
Hartnett.
such an interesting dynamic to set up your characters in. It's like they were once in love. They once were the most important person to each other. We don't know what's eroded between them. are they gonna work together? Or are they gonna fall apart? Blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Like it's so narratively juicy.
Yeah. Okay, well, who wants to go first with this one?
I'll go first. Oh, you go, Sydney. No, you go.
I'm gonna give this a 3 out of 5. Like,
Fair.
It's very like middle of the road. I don't know. I'll watch it again. Like the time pacing like really threw me off.
Yeah, I think that's like the fatal flaw of the film.
Right? Like I needed like a better visualization of the passage of the 30 days. Because it all felt like it could have just happened in a weekend.
It felt like it could have happened in one night.
Yeah, because you can't tell. There's no daylight, sunset to
right.
But also, like, we never see anybody eating, or like the only time we see somebody go to the bathroom is when Isaac escapes, and like,
and we learn that you can't flush the toilet. Got to be quiet.
Right. So it's like they've been here for 9 days. Like, what are they doing? You know what I mean? So it is not a fleshed out aspect of this film.
But like, I'll probably go and read the graphic novel. You said it didn't take you that long. Like,
no, it takes like
35 minutes, she said.
The vampires are cool as hell. Like, the vampires are genuinely cool. I love the lore. Like, these are such different vampires than like what you're used to seeing, and I do very much appreciate that. But just like the pacing of the movie really kind of took me out of the 30 days of night.
Totally. Yeah. When they make the calendar such a huge part of the
it's in the
and then
setup. Then they don't
just,
nail
like,
the
breeze
calendar
over that. Like, it really could have been.
It could have been 30 Lays of Night.
You know,
I would have given that 5 stars.
30 Lays of Night, yeah.
30 Lays of Night.
Wait, you see the throuple smashing, and you just hear lots of screaming in the background, and every now and then they go, "What was that?" But then somebody starts kissing again, and they get distracted.
Exactly. I would have loved that.
I'd watch it. There better be a porn of this already, by the way. It writes
with
itself.
That title.
It just writes itself.
I'm going to be Googling that afterwards just to double check. I'll put it in the show notes. No, I won't.
Great.
Can you imagine?
Thank God.
And I've linked to a porn here in the show notes. No. Chelsea, I feel like you're going to be more positive than me, so do you want to go last?
Sure.
Okay, cool. I like to end on a high note. Like I said, I really had a really bad time watching this movie, and I don't know exactly why. It could have been the vibes. Could have been whatever. But didn't you see me being positive the whole episode long?
You sure
How
were.
wonderful. I think that... What's happening? Oh my God, Adam thinks that we should evacuate. So that is what's been happening while we've been recording. I have no idea what's going on. So let's finish this up really quickly. Yeah, Jesus fucking Christ. 5 minutes, and then I'll be ready to evacuate. Okay. So basically, keep that part in, I guess. Jesus fucking Christ. So I think that honestly, for me, the saving grace for this movie, besides looking at Josh Hartnett, because he is very hot, is the monster design. I just think it was really, really interesting. The setting is really, really cool. I think a lot of what the critics said about this movie is that they didn't love the plot and how it progressed. I think it had so many great elements and so many moments of like little tiny character development that I thought was really cool that they did that, but it was a little bit of a mess, and it was a little all over the place in that way because there are so many people to focus on that like I didn't like. I could have been more invested in Stella and Eben, but like they were focusing on so many other different things. There are just so many elements to this movie, which made it a little overlong for me. And it did drag a little bit, but it was still like very visually stimulating. I thought that like the bleak surroundings was really cool. I liked that it was a little melodramatic because I thought it was like fun. It's a very bleak situation. If you're gonna be melodramatic at any time, it's when you're in 30 Days of Night. So yeah, I think that it was really, really interesting. I think learning what the graphic novel looked like made me like it even more because I think they did a really good job replicating that in the movie too. Because again, really interesting artistic style. But again, I don't want to watch this movie again very soon. maybe not for a long time. So I'm going to give it a 3.5. I was going to give it a 3, but I'll give it a 3.5 just because they created a whole language for this, and that's really fucking cool. And it went clickety-clackety, and I think that's fun. Chelsea?
Yeah, I think I probably will be a little higher than that. So not too much higher, because if your premise is 30 days and we're not really meaningfully getting 30 days, I think that is a huge drawback and downfall. I think if the premise is really they have to wait it out for 30 days and that's part of the horror of the film, that's not present in this movie. That said, I love the premise. I love the divorced couple leading the emotional heart of the film. I loved all of the little vignettes. Like, I thought they did a lot of really interesting stuff. One aspect of the monster design that we haven't even really touched on is the way that, like, you see them almost as like shadows in the background, like on the rooftops and stuff at so many parts, especially in the beginning. That was so cool and well done. There were just so many parts of this movie where I was like, that goes really hard. That slays. And so I'm gonna give it like a 4.2, I think, because it's not like amazing, but I had a surprisingly good time watching it. And then I was like, I'm so glad I picked this movie. Like, I liked it so much more than I expected to.
Good. When I was watching it, I was freaking out that you guys were all gonna hate it, and I was like, "Did I make us do this?" I couldn't remember what happened.
I made us do this. Don't worry.
Okay.
And it was worth it.
I was freaking out. No, I'm glad we did it too. I never would have watched it otherwise. So
I never would have watched it otherwise, which is weird because again, as it was starting, I was like, this premise is so crazy good. But I don't know. It was never on my to-do list at any point until it seemed like a good January pick for WWVVSDE, and I stand by that. I'm happy with that. I'm thrilled with it. So 4.2 for me, and I think it was a great addition to the lineup.
Awesome. Well, that brings us to the end of this month's installment of Werewolf versus Vampire seasonal depression event. But don't worry, folks, it'll be back in February. That's the whole nature of the event.
That's the peak of the season, actually.
February is the worst month, some say. So some say January, but some say February. So
it's a toss-up between February and December always.
That's true. December is also pretty fucking bad. Depends on how you feel about Christmas.
Christmas lights up.
That's the only good part. But you gotta deal with family. That's always
we got some Scrooges and Grinches in the group here, but Chelsea will bring the Christmas spirit back to us. Anyway.
Exactly.
It's worth doing a vibe switch. It's drastic. It's crazy. And Sydney's gonna tell us what it is. What's happening?
So we are doing a movie that is so critically acclaimed, so beloved, so I just want to say Spooky Tuesday are on the pulse of everything because this movie just got added onto Netflix. And you want to know why? It's because we're doing it, actually. We called up Netflix.
Spooky Tuesday
this is one of those movies that we've been saying, when are we doing insert movie here? For 4 years. We have been saying this, and now it's happening.
This is the first movie that I saw at the Chinese Hollywood Theater, my first time ever in Los Angeles.
Oh my God.
When I was like 11 or 12. And that is the Scooby-Doo movie, the live action Scooby-Doo movie, because guess what it is? It's Matthew Lillard's birthday.
Happy birthday, week, Matthew Lillard.
Yeah.
His 55th, so it's a big one. That's one of the ones. That's one of the ones. And also, in case you were surprised by this as well, that movie is not called the Scooby-Doo live action movie, which is what I've always thought of it. It's called Scooby-Doo.
I know.
2002. No, I know. I just thought that was weird. I don't know why I thought it was weird. I've never thought of Scooby
It always seems like it should be like Scooby-Doo and something. Scooby-Doo, blah, blah, blah.
It's just Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo and
it's
Sarah
not
Michelle
the
Gellar.
Facebook, drop the V, it's just Facebook.
Pretty nice. I am so fucking excited to do this. I mean, it goes without saying, but like, whoa, it's going to be crazy.
I'm so hyped.
It's going to be crazy. I've got to dress up. I'm going. It's getting me through the week. It's getting me through the wind event of Los Angeles 2025. So I'll tell you that.
It's getting Monica the thought that she's going to have to evacuate.
Yeah, I might have to evacuate right now. So let's just run it. Let's run through those little things that I say. Wow. Why don't you say, didn't you love that? Didn't you have fun? Aren't you having a great time? Why not say in a 5-star review, I hope you don't die in the wind event of Los Angeles 2025 on our podcast, or a 5-star rating on Spotify. Wouldn't be so nice? It'd just be so beautiful. And why not follow us on social media? We're at Spooky_Tuesday on pretty much everything except for Facebook and Tumblr, where we're at Spooky Tuesday Pod. And speaking of Spooky Tuesday Pod, put a .com after that, and it's your one-stop shop for everything Spooky Tuesday. It's a beautiful thing. There's lots to see. Lots of photos of us looking hot. You should check it out. Speaking of us being hot, we're all wearing cute hats that you can see on our YouTube channel. So
winter wear.
Please like and subscribe. We would love to see you over there. See you seeing us. And at the end of the day, I have to say, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye, Spooky.
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Height, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamara Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at Great18. That's GR818_. And our podcast art is by Ryan Brom, who you can follow on Instagram at Ryan Brom Art. That's RyanBrommArt. Learn more about Spooky Tuesday at spookytuesdaypod.com and subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/spooky_Tuesday.